Okay, I think we'll get started. I can see there's people still joining us, so yep, you're all very welcome. Um, Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us this morning for our webinar, Transition to Renewable Energy with Zero Upfront Costs. I'm delighted that you've joined us. This morning, we're going to learn all about our innovative blended power purchase agreement service, or PPA service, and we'll hear more about that in the coming few minutes. This is a flexible technology agnostic solution. It's designed to meet unique energy needs of farmers and growers. And in the webinar this morning, we're going to learn, amongst other things, how to reduce energy costs and protect your business from price fluctuations, certainly energy price fluctuations that we've seen in recent times, how to implement renewable energy solutions for your business, how to enhance energy efficiency with fully funded upgrades, and how we can help you, NFU Energy and our partners can help you to simplify that transition to renewable energy with the support and advice that we can provide you. We'll also look at how you can increase the longevity and value of your farm buildings. We're joined this morning by several colleagues and delighted that they've joined us. So we've got Jerry Nacelle, Commercial Director for Sabre Renewables Energy, and we've got Rian Blake, who is National Business Development Manager for Euroclad Group. Thank you both for joining us, and we'll look forward to hearing from you shortly. Before we dive in, just one or two quick housekeeping notes. So the webinar is being recorded, and we will make it available for viewing after the event and share that with you and hopefully with the wider community. Aside from ourselves as presenters this morning, everybody else's cameras and microphones are muted and turned off. However, we very much welcome your questions. So if you can add your questions in the chat, then we'd be delighted about that. And we've got time once the presentations are finished to come back and address those questions. And we very much look forward to receiving some of those. So please, any questions that you have as we move through the presentations, put those in the chat and we'll be delighted to come back to them. Before I hand over to our colleagues, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of who we are and what we do as NFU Energy. So we're wholly owned by the National Farmers Union and have been for about the last 7 or 8 years. We're an energy consultancy business, of course, and we're fairly sizable in our own right. We employ about 55 people. We've got our own offices at Stoneleigh Park in Warwickshire. Those of you that are familiar with the NFU will know that the NFU's headquarters is also at Stoneleigh Park. So our offices are a few hundred meters away. Before the NFU purchased us, we were an independent energy consultancy business for many decades beforehand. Always been based at Stoneleigh Park, always had a focus on energy and particularly energy within the agriculture and horticultural sectors. So there's a wealth of experience that's been built up over many decades. What do we do? Well, we do quite a bit, and we have a wealth of services that we can offer and support that we can offer to you to help you navigate your way through what is a very complex sector. The energy sector is complex, it's confusing, and if you're not working in it day in, day out, it can be quite onerous. We're here to help you navigate your way through that. We can do it in several ways. So we have a contracts brokerage team within the business. So we have a team of about 20 odd people who help and assist our customers with their import energy contracts, increasingly with their export energy contracts as more and more people are transitioning to renewable technologies and generating their own energy, using it on farm, but also possibly exporting as well. We can help you to make sure you're getting the best value for money for your exports, that you're getting the best deal for your imports. So I'd certainly recommend that you pick the phone up and have a chat with our brokerage team if you've got any questions related to your import or export contracts. They'll certainly be able to advise you. We can also help with standing charge banding questions and queries, which is a big issue for people. It's can be a very big cost for business, and if there's opportunities there to understand how you might be able to make reductions, then we're here to help. We have a team that's dedicated to providing that advice and support. So again, pick the phone up and talk to us. Specifically for NFU members, we offer exclusive buying group opportunities throughout the year. So again, if you're not already working with us and you're an NFU member, speak to the team and see what sort of deals and services we can offer you. We also get involved in wave leaves and easement work, which is often a question that comes up from landowners. So again, if you have any questions related to access rights on your land for electricity infrastructure, way leaves, easements, again, pick the phone up. We've got people that can help and assist. The energy sector is also chock full of compliance requirements. It can be very confusing. It can be difficult to navigate way through. Fortunately, we have people within the business that are expert in many, many areas of compliance requirements. So things including the climate change levy scheme. I won't go through all of them, but those that are familiar with these schemes will recognise them. The renewable heat incentive scheme, which is one of the government's big flagship tariff-based incentive schemes for renewable heat generation. Conversely, on the electricity side, the feed-in tariff scheme, and many, many other compliance schemes that some of which are noted there on that slide in front of you. We've got people within the business that are expert in many areas. So again, if you have any questions, if you're part of the RHI scheme, or you're part of the feed-in tariff scheme, or you're on the climate change agreement, climate change levy scheme, then pick the phone up and have a chat with us. We'd be delighted to talk to you. We also have a team of engineers, really experienced, knowledgeable energy engineers that spend their time out on site, helping and advising farmers and growers to identify energy efficiency savings within their businesses, how to drive down their business costs from an energy perspective, and also to help you to design, develop, implement your energy infrastructure projects, whatever way, shape, or form they might be. We've got experts within the business that can work with you as closely as you want us to help make sure that you're making the right investment decisions for your business. And that's a really busy team. We like to get out on farm. Whilst we know farming very well, we also recognise that every farming business is different and has unique requirements, and we can work with you to make sure that you're getting the best advice and support for your specific needs. The other area, which brings us on to really what we're going to be focused on increasingly today, is our renewables work. Renewables is increasingly important for various reasons, not least of which is to help with the costs of energy in your business, to give you more control over your energy usage and your energy needs. There's all sorts of things that we get involved with. We can help you to design, develop, and practically implement your renewables projects across a wide range of renewables technologies, some of which you see there. So that brings us nicely on to the focus of today's webinar, and specifically the unique and exciting approach that Sabre is bringing to the market that we're really keen to talk to you about. So with no further ado, let me hand over to Jerry. Jerry, over to you to take us through your service offering.
Excellent. Appreciate it, Stephen. Again, good morning, everybody. Thanks very much for taking some time out this morning. What we're going to focus on today is a little bit of introduction into Sabre Renewable Energy. We're going to look at how we can help you power your farm, improve your farm buildings, and most importantly, help you cut costs. Just to give you a little bit of background, my name is Jerry. I'm the Commercial Director for Sabre Renewables. Sabre Renewables is what we call a bespoke PPA funder. For people that are new to PPAs, I'll just explain briefly. PPA stands for Power Purchase Agreements. So basically, Sabre as a fund will cover the capital cost of renewable energy on your farm, on your land, on your roof, and cover a multitude of technologies. So the fund is covering the upfront capital cost. You, as the business owner, are simply agreeing to purchase the power that we produce on site from those relevant renewable technologies. So if we look beyond the grid, we're currently within your farm, within your growing business, within your manufacturing business, you have your core supply, which is grid electricity. What we want to try and provide is a much more compelling solution. So we will assist designing a renewable energy solution specifically aligned to your business needs. That provides you with an alternative to grid energy at a much more compelling price. So if we look at the UK marketplace today, we're looking at average electric prices 25 pence. If we deploy renewable energy on site and you purchase that energy via a power purchase agreement, we're aiming to achieve much more compelling prices than your current grid supply. Anything as low as 12, 13 pence compared to your grid current supply. So when we partner with NFU Energy, who are giving you terrific up-to-date guidance on where the energy market is going and securing excellent procurement rates for you, you then complement that with taking control of a percentage of your supply and producing that energy on site. So you're reducing your attachment to grid energy, you're becoming partially grid independent, and most importantly, you're saving costs. So we'll look at ultimately how we can power it together. So we're offering a fully funded, tailored and blended solution to maximize your energy cost savings, and most importantly, future-proof your farm. So we're trying to remove some of the volatility that has existed in this marketplace. For example, if we go back to 2020, 2021, and the real volatility that was in the marketplace at that stage, we had clients procuring energy in the UK 50 pence, 75 pence a unit. Had you had a PPA in place at that time, you would have protected yourself from that volatility. So where you see the marketplace flattening over the last couple of years, but you still have peaks and troughs, a power purchase agreement gives you a much more predictable future. Today, we're going to focus on blended power purchase agreements. We're going to look at ways that we can maximize energy cost savings and improve site resilience, which is really important. So what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to help you take control of energy costs within the farming and growing sector. We're looking at how we can maximize on-site potential. Can we help with the refurbishment or remediation of on-site facilities? So we'll touch on re-roofing today, roofing, amendments to site. Perhaps you have stranded assets on site. Personally, I always feel roofs in particular present an underutilized asset within your business. So can we find a solution that we can complement, deploy solar on that roof, provide you with that level of grid independence, reduce your energy costs? If the roof is not currently suitable, can we accommodate the costs of replacing that roof or cladding that roof so that we can complement that, deploy solar on the new roof, all completed without any capital cost whatsoever, and produce energy on site at a much more compelling rate than grid. When we look to the future facing all businesses within the UK, the need to cut carbon, improve resilience, all of these elements from an ESG perspective and all of these pressures from supply chain require capital cost. A power purchase agreement takes away the need for that upfront capital cost by blending PPAs. So what we're looking at is we're blending multiple technologies and remediation works together. We create a much more compelling approach, ultimately producing more on-site energy. So today's focus, firstly, power purchase agreements and site remediation. So let's delve into a blended PPA. Traditionally, PPAs in the UK and Europe are solely focused on solar panels producing electricity, which is fantastic, but limited by space, limited by climate conditions. So what Sabre has created a unique offering where rather than have a specific PPA purely for solar, we will complement that PPA approach with multiple technologies. What we're aiming to do is provide a long-term agreement which helps us enable to fund these renewable energy systems. There's no upfront capital costs required. You then enter a space where you have fixed, predictable energy prices. We will assist you choosing the right blend of energy technologies, and will also assist with building improvements such as overcladding. So the image on the right-hand side is showing a barn with solar panels deployed, complemented with an on-site battery, and further complemented with a CHP. I'll touch on CHP in a few slides, but now we have a package of solutions, increasing your level of grid independence, increasing the production of on-site energy, and therefore providing a much lower overall PPA rate. Why blend energy and building upgrades? Well, building upgrades come at a cost. Developing your business further, as I said, maybe looking at stranded assets. A PPA agreement takes away the need for upfront capital costs. If we look at overcladding, for example, we're producing more efficiency, we're reducing heat loss, we're reducing energy waste, and most importantly, we're future-proofing your on-site asset 25, 30, 40 years. The expanding your business option is really important, because if we look at buildings that are currently underutilized, how can we bring those buildings up to speed, add new uses to those facilities, and ultimately grow and develop your business? We help to improve overall efficiency, animal welfare, and all of this is delivered in one simple funding package. Great point within all PPAs. So Sabre will own and operate the technology. So all operation and maintenance of the technology is controlled by us. You would have access to, via the Sabre portal, our online portal demonstrating how the technology is operating today, what cumulative savings you're benefiting from that blended PPA. So you have a first-hand view of how successful the PPA is, how much money it's saving your business, how much carbon it's saving your overall footprint. So blended is a tremendous way of moving forward. When we're looking at integrating site remediation, so we're looking at many different aspects. Today we're focusing on re-roofing and recladding, but we can look at machinery upgrades, we can look at manufacturing process upgrades, and we can build those costs within a renewable energy PPA. So we're taking more boxes, we're giving a more whole house approach to this PPA funding solution. We're encouraging you as a business to look beyond the grid. Let's look out of the box. Let's look at, as I said, an underutilized asset or an area of your business that's currently underdeveloped, and having the power of a blended approach allows us to look at many elements that would require capital cost. We wrap that capital cost into the overall PPA agreement and provide, as I said, a much stronger solution. Recladding buildings within the manufacturing sector, within the farming and agriculture sector, is often an item that is left to the last item on the list. We can take a much more proactive approach and look at developing these assets on site together. We'll bring our colleagues at Euroclad into the call in a few minutes, who we work closely with. Euroclad are trusted agriculture building specialists. So you have a full team of NFU Energy giving you the procurement advice and support, Sabre providing the overall blended PPA approach, and our colleagues and strategic partners such as Euroclad to ensure that we're delivering the most advanced solution that we possibly can. Let's look at how a blended PPA works in practice. So we're going to fund and install the energy systems and the building upgrades that are required. The farm will simply pay for the energy that is produced via the on-site renewable technology that we deploy, and we're hoping to provide that energy to you at a much more compelling rate than the grid. Those energy cost savings can then offset the cost of the remediation works, or a simple PPA is offsetting your grid cost so that your farm operates more efficiently and more profitably. The future-proofing element is not to be underestimated. Traditionally, you look at assets, and as you approach end of life, end of term, 20, 25 years on a roof, you can look at that pending cost problem. It's now a pending cost solution. By taking that negative, turning it into a positive, creating higher on-site efficiency, creating more reliable supply, generating large-scale energy production on site, and ultimately providing utility savings. I'll walk you through a couple of case studies just for context of how a PPA really works. We did a webinar a couple of months ago with NFU Energy. Graham at Woodlark Nurseries contacted us for some help and support and guidance on a PPA perspective. Ultimately, we had an initial meeting, we attended site, we looked at the overall energy consumption on site, and we settled on a specific roof for a 59 kilowatt solar array. So Woodlark Nurseries at that point was consuming 180,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year. Now the solar is producing 52,000 kilowatt hours, which has given Woodlark 24% of its annual electric consumption. That consumption is now coming from a PPA agreement from that roof mount solar. The energy is being procured by Woodlark at a rate of 13.3 pence, which is giving 46% energy savings to the business on year one. So that's circa 25k of saving without having to spend any capital whatsoever. For the benefit of today, I've looked at the same roof, but if Sabre were in this case funding, for example, £35,000 worth of re-roof costs with our partners at Euroclad, again, there would be no upfront cost for Graham at Woodlark. Ultimately, we would be selling energy to Woodlark now at 21 pence, which still represents an overall saving of 14%, sorry. So we've now helped to future-proof the site. We've reduced the carbon on site. We've deployed a new asset, so that roof is now fully warranted for 25 years, and we're saving money in the process. So a really, really compelling case for small roof mount solar installations. When we look at Derwent Manor, a perfect example of a blended solution. So we looked at £35,000 worth of on-site remediation. We looked at 46 kilowatt of roof mount solar. The client was having issues with historic biomass boilers that had been installed many years ago that were approaching the end of their RHI term. So we've deployed the solar, we've completed on-site remediation, and we've replaced the on-site biomass boilers with bio-LPG powered CHP. The great news on Derwent Manor is we now have achieved 73% grid independence. So 65% of the energy is being produced via the CHP, which is basically a combined heat and power engine. Our next webinar next month will focus on CHPs. We've got the roof mount solar producing 8% of site. So now 27% of sites near 600,000 kilowatts per annum is coming from grid. Why does all of this matter, in our opinion, for farmers and landowners? We can help manage energy price risk with fixed, lower costs and remove that grid volatility. We can future-proof farm infrastructure, we contribute to your sustainability goals, and we improve your overall asset value or tenant appeal. Next steps on PPA, just to finish up, reach out to our colleagues at the NFU Energy or come directly to us at Sabre Renewables. We'll help conduct an initial assessment. We'll look at an initial farm overview, building assessment, etc. and will most importantly understand your goals and ambitions. We'll then build a blended PPA proposal. We'll conduct site surveys, confirm the final solutions are in line with your expectations and our expectations, and then we'll move on to deploy and commission the remediation and the on-site renewable technology. If we're looking at Euroclad will assist managing the project from start to finish. And the great news is, as I said, all ongoing operations and maintenance are managed by Sabre Renewables as part of your PPA agreement. We're going to take some questions and answer later today, sorry. We'll look at clarifying some of these costs. We'll look at PPA funding and contracts, more site remediation details, any tenant and landlord consideration questions, and also discuss environmental benefits. So thanks for listening. I'll pass you over to Rianne at Euroclad, and we'll look forward to your questions and answers in a few minutes.
You're on mute, Rianne.
Slight lag with the pressing of the buttons, apologies. So firstly, another thank you from myself for inviting us to speak today. So I'm Rianne Blake and I'm the National Business Development Manager for Euroclad Group. To begin with, I'm going to offer you a really brief overview of Euroclad, who we are, where we're based, the manufactured products that we offer, and hopefully by the end of the slides I'm going to deliver today, an overview of how we can help the construction industry, but specifically the agricultural sector. So Euroclad were established in 1981. We have over 40 years of manufacturing experience when it comes to metal, roof and wall solutions, and we are based in Cardiff in South Wales. We have 3 manufacturing facilities all on one site in Cardiff, and we are really proud to be a UK manufacturer, but also very proud to extend our supply chain of core components to other fellow UK manufacturers. So Tata Steel, Knauf Insulation and Rockwell are just a few of those who contribute to core elements of the products that we produce. In terms of the sectors that we cover, you can see here from this slide that there really is no sector too big or too small. We furnish support and delivery of materials to private residential dwellings, education, leisure, of course, agriculture. But then we also support large-scale industrial and warehousing facilities, energy centres, food processing facilities, data centres, gigafactories, anything that we can support with metal roofing and cladding, we will do so. As well as supporting a broad range of sectors, we supply these with both new build specification support as well as refurbishment supports. So for the purpose of today, we are going to focus on retrofit and refurbishment solutions, but as noted, the principles of quality material selections and manufacturing processes remain the same to both new build or refurbishment and retrofit opportunities. In terms of our support to the industry when it comes to refurbishment, this is a product that we brand at Euroclad called Euroclad Refresh. The principles of refresh utilise the existing building and the existing substrate on that building to facilitate the attachment of a new and improved system. This removes the need for complete removal and disposal of those existing materials, and the attachment of the new roof to the existing structure positively transforms the appearance of the building, but carries many other benefits that we're going to cover in the next slide in some more detail. The principles and the trend of retrofit and refurbishment have been fast-tracked for a number of reasons. So growing awareness of climate change and the need for us to all focus on ESG credentials, but also the increasing cost of energy, as well as stricter building regulations which are being pushed through, which are specifically aimed at reducing the carbon footprint of the built environment. So to try and summarise some of the key benefits affiliated with refurbishment, we'll start with looking at the possibility for the remaining building to remain operational during these building works. Naturally, this avoids the costs associated with downtime and lost productivity within the buildings themselves, but it can also offer a smoother transition should you need to phase works, and again ensure the operational functions of your businesses and your day-to-day processes are unhindered by the building works themselves. Euroclad refresh solutions also extend the service life of the existing buildings. So this naturally promotes lower capital expenditure when compared with demolition and new build costs. And maximises your return on your initial investment. It also enables us to preserve heritage or unique features within the building, where we can tailor specifications to work on the areas that actually require maintenance and upgrades, and leave in situ other areas that may not. It goes without saying that a refurbishment solution is going to improve the aesthetics of the building. But beyond this as well, it's going to improve your thermal efficiencies, the air tightness, and therefore the EPC ratings of the existing buildings. All of these are going to contribute to lower operational energy costs. Firmly aligned with the message delivered with Sabre Renewables just a few minutes prior to me taking over, positively reinforcing the roof will allow for the attachment of PV modules, and this can be used in conjunction with Sabre Renewables PPA solutions, offering affordable upgrades. With a firm focus on renewables being a topic which covers virtually every business, but specifically the construction industry, we need to first ask the question why the construction sector has such a large influence over the need to drive down carbon emissions for the built environment. You can see from the figures shown here that when you consider both direct and indirect emissions produced by the buildings, this contributes to nearly 1/4 of all of the UK's greenhouse gas emissions. Direct emissions normally refer to energy or carbon produced from the use of fossil fuels. So, for example, heating large spaces or water within the buildings, whilst indirect building emissions are associated to operational emissions. So this could be, for example, the use of electricity used to light the building. From the scale of the impact that the buildings in the UK have on the national overall carbon emissions, it really is no surprise that the government seeks to regulate a reduction in carbon emissions throughout the built environment. With regulatory targets set by government only expected to tighten as we move towards both 2030 and 2050, but also the possibility of you, the client, to generate your own electricity at a lower cost when compared to purchasing via the grid. The use of PV is rapidly growing and is set to become the largest renewable energy source by 2029. Jerry mentioned the volatility in 2021, where we saw soaring grid prices, and it was in 2021 that we saw the largest increase of roof-mounted PV used at a significant rate. With roof-mounted PV solutions becoming a standard regulatory requirement for new builds, but offering beneficial enhancements to existing assets, we really do need to look at manufacturers that support PV-ready systems and suitable attachment methods. So when Euroclad talk about a PV ready roof system, we're actually looking at both the guarantee period and the performance of the roof system, and making sure that the attachment of third-party PV modules are not going to hinder the performance in any way. To this end, we have developed a unique range of PV attachments to demonstrate full compatibility with our roof systems. We offer guaranteed roof systems, but we now offer a guaranteed attachment system, therefore offering client comfort that the correct procedures and processes are being followed. So the slides from me today were brief. They weren't intended to be a deep dive into our product range, but were intended to share a glimpse of how we can support the agricultural sector with both new build and refurbishment specification support. It also showcases how remediation works together with innovative technologies can offer a compelling, sustainable approach. So on that note, I'm going to offer some closing remarks before handing back to Jerry. And that is just to summarise the message delivered today. So by preserving the existing structures within our asset pools, we can avoid carbon and material costs of demolition, and of course, new build and reconstruction. We can improve the structural performance, safety and functionality of the ageing buildings, and the integration of PV will ultimately offer lower operational costs and energy bills. Improved asset values through modernisation and energy efficient upgrades will naturally promote circular economy principles. This is a core message shared by Euroclad, where we set to align environmental, government and social targets. So that's everything from me, and I'd be pleased to share my contact details afterwards if there's anything that we can furnish specifically. And from there, I'll hand back to Jerry.
Perfect. Excellent, Rianne. So just to finish up today, please reach out via our website. We had a terrific supplement released earlier this month, which is available online at Sabre or NFU Energy. A lot more detailed information, case studies, etc. And it's a great mechanism to give yourself a bit of a wider knowledge on PPAs, how they can ultimately benefit your farm. There's some great questions and answers in there. Most importantly, thanks again for your time this morning. Stephen, I'll pass control back over to yourself. Hopefully we have a few questions or answers to wrap today's session up.
We do indeed. Yes, thanks, Jerry. Rianne, thanks very much. Yeah, really good. Hopefully that's been really interesting for people on the call this morning. Let's jump into a few questions because we do have a few questions in the Q&A box. Ruth, thank you very much for your questions. I'll address the first one and then I'll hand over to Jerry to address the other two questions. So, Ruth, you're asking, do NFU members have free access to NFU energy expertise? Yes, we're very happy to talk to you and have an initial consultation with you. We are a commercial business within the NFU. So if you employ us for specific pieces of work, perhaps that's a piece of consultancy work or a piece of feasibility work or some compliance work, then yes, that is a chargeable service, and we'll talk to you about that and agree what those fees are. We're very open and transparent with our fees. Similarly, with our energy brokerage service, our brokers are very open in explaining how NFU Energy receives payment for its services. So have a chat with us and we can talk you through that. Jerry, Ruth's other question is to do with the suitability of taking this system off-grid for an off-grid solution where there's no access to national grid power.
Excellent question, Ruth. Subject to your location and your energy demands, in principle, it's possible. You would look at complementing how we produce energy on site, how much energy is required, and when you're blending technologies, Ruth, solar obviously is not producing energy outside of daylight hours. So we have to look at alternatives during that time, which is either a combination of battery storage or other technologies, perhaps such as CHP. Love to work with you. You're setting a pretty high goal there, which makes this job really, really interesting. So just connect with us directly. Let's understand those goals, your ambitions, and we'll do everything in our power to try and help.
Excellent. Thanks, Jerry. Another question that's posed by Ruth, and I think also picks up on a question that Chris has raised. So this is all to do with the term for the blended PPA contracts, and particularly in the context of tenants and tenant farmers.
So if we look at traditional PPAs, again, traditional PPA was primarily solar focused. Standard terms within the UK marketplace were 25 years. That is flexible. If we think about it as simply as the longer the term, the lower the PPA rate, therefore the greater savings in the short term. One of the key benefits with blended PPAs is being able to reduce that term. So our blended PPA approach has an average term of just 15 years. So when you're blending solar, CHP, battery, for example, although you have really compelling savings during the term, after 15 years, all ownership of that technology transfers to you, the client. And basically, at that point, you're producing free energy. So the more we blend, the more energy we produce. That allows us to shorten the average term of a PPA agreement.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Chris goes on to ask, do the lease terms allow for roof refurbishment and solar installation, and who holds the authority to approve that or consent? So is it tenant, landlord, or both? I guess that's dependent on individual circumstance.
Very much so. We will first and foremost understand what you're trying to achieve. The mechanics of achieving that will help support, guide. If we're liaising with landlords on your behalf, we're looking at how that affects your overall lease agreement. Will your landlord grant approval? Today in the UK, there's little or no challenge. Ultimately, if your business is more efficient, your landlord has a more efficient business, you're a happy tenant. The mechanics of, if it's a tenanted facility, we are engaging a lease, airspace lease, if we're talking about roof mount solar above the roof of the facility. So that's a tri-party agreement between ourselves, the landlord, and ultimately yourself, the tenant. There's no argument that we haven't met in the past, and pretty much nothing that we can't help you overcome. If we stay focused on, we will guide you with the ultimate aim of aligning a solution to your ambitions, and we'll do the landlord communication and negotiation on your behalf.
Excellent, thank you. Rian, I'll pose this one to you. This one's from Sharon. So do you offer O&M services as a separate service? And just a supplementary question from me there. When you talk about reclad or refresh, what roof materials are suitable for that? Quite often there's asbestos roofs, roof structures in many farming businesses. How do you approach that?
Yeah, so kind of the concept of using what we term as a built-up system naturally allows it to be really versatile in specification. So when it comes to the existing substrate, as long as the existing structure and substrate is capable of taking the additional loads to furnish the re-roof, we have solutions to go over virtually any existing substrate, including asbestos. Sometimes the merit of leaving asbestos in situ will actually outweigh the cost and hazards with the removal of it. So we can come up with solutions to overclad asbestos roofs, existing metal profile roofs, existing composite panel roofs. All of those specifications will be tailored, like Jerry has said, to the client performance criteria. So we can go for minimal cavities for cost efficiencies, or we can go for kind of deeper cavities with non-combustible insulation to actually significantly improve the thermal performances of the existing building. In terms of the materials we use, our specification of materials are as standard non-combustible core insulation, a real key message, an important driver within the construction industry at the moment. And in terms of the external products, we offer a whole array of various profiles, colours, finishes. They are all available in steel and aluminium substrates. So again, they're all endorsing a positive circular message when it comes to end of life or recycling, and also the recycled content. So there's no simple answer to this. It's a very flexible and versatile solution that can lend itself to any performance criteria in essence.
Excellent, thank you. And just that specific question, do you offer O&M services as separate service? I guess the answer to that is yes. Is that right?
So we offer the guidance on O&M, best practice and maintenance, and then typically the installing specialist contractor will go on to offer continued maintenance and best practice. Okay,
thank you for that. Jerry, a question for you, which is quite an interesting one. So in an area with restricted export to the grid, are export limiting devices an option as part of the package in order to get DNO approval?
Yeah, Stephen, great question. To say the grid is challenging is an understatement, and it becomes more and more challenging. And, you know, quite honestly, we're going to face many more years of this before we get real grid improvement in the UK. That being said, we are where we are. So within a standard installation, we will often get enforcement from grid on export limitation. How we manage that is really straightforward. We manage it from an overall design perspective, and we also manage it from how we control the output of the power on site. Simple example, you have a relatively high consumer who works 5.5 days a week, and we have a grid export limitation on that site. The overall mechanics of the PPA still make financial sense for both parties, but during those lower operation or downtime, we limit the power of the asset itself. Therefore, we operate in line with any grid restriction that's placed in front of us. 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said smaller assets, you don't tend to face much grid limitation. Today in 2025, we face grid limitation on pretty much all assets. I had an asset approved this week, 60 kilowatt with a 33 kilowatt grid limitation. How the client uses energy still makes that project feasible. We design and manage that as part of the process.
Excellent. Okay, thank you for that. We're conscious of time, so a couple of quick questions that Chris has posed, and I guess this is to do with insurance and liability. So Does the PPA provider install or carry professional indemnity insurance, product liability? You know, and what does that cover? Does that cover design, installation, warranty issues? And then specifically, yeah, there's a scenario there. If the PV system fails, this is a roof-mounted system, damages the roof. You know, where does that responsibility lie? Is it a defined process? Is the claims resolution process straightforward? How does that look?
Yep. Ultimately, Sabre Renewable Energy will own and operate the asset. So the standard EPC contracting rules apply from public liability, indemnity, technology warranties. All of those elements sit with Sabre itself. On-site remediation or on-site damage, third-party insurance is in place from day one for the protection and the performance of the overall asset. So short answer, Stephen, all bases are covered.
Excellent. Thank you. So I think that's the questions that we've had in the chat this morning. So thanks very much, everybody that's posed those questions, and I hope we've addressed them. But by all means, pick the phone up and give us a call if you want to continue that conversation. You can see our contact details there on the screen in front of you. Yeah, we've got 2 minutes left. So just to wrap up, quick questions from myself. In terms of minimum size of installation, if we're talking roof mount solar PV, for instance, Jerry, where do you start?
Within the industry, you know yourself, Stephen, since we started our partnership with NFU Energy, we welcome all site approaches. You know, we've got assets currently being deployed for NFU members as small as 13 kilowatt solar arrays with battery installations, all the way up to 10 and 20 megawatt assets. You know, I'd rather explore something and try and help rather than say, no, that's not suitable. So again, just reach out.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, I think we are rapidly running out of time, so I'm going to call things to a close there. Just remains for me to thank everybody for joining us this morning. We really do appreciate you giving it your time to join us for this webinar. I hope it's been really useful and interesting. We'd be delighted to talk to you. So pick the phone up, drop us an email, either directly to NFU Energy or approach Jerry at Sabre or Ian at Euroclad. Very happy for you to go direct to them and have a chat. We will be sharing the recording with you in the coming days and reaching out to you to see if we can help you move forward. But yes, for now, Rhian, Jerry, Jenny, thank you very much for your time and support this morning. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody for joining us. Have a good day. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.